Gary, thank you so much for joining us today. As we start, can you maybe touch a little bit about, talk a little bit about your background and your kind of current role?
Um, well, I think my background's pretty varied. I mean, most people know me, and the fact that I've been in IT, I've been in cyber. I started in the military and then transitioned over, working for the city of San Diego and the state of California, and then into private industry. So it's been pretty wide ranging. Currently, I'm the chief security officer at Softbank Investment Advisors. There's about five funds that I provide security services across, plus due diligence services and virtual CISO services to our portfolio companies. So it's a pretty wide ranging role.
I understand. I understand. Well, Gary, again, thank you so much for joining us today. The couple of things that I want to touch on. Um, you are probably one of the top CISOs on LinkedIn in terms of how active you are, how much valuable content you post. And I want to ask for your advice, because I think a lot of CISOs that we talk to, most of them are very strong technically. A lot of them have profiles on LinkedIn, but a lot of them, maybe they like content that other either CISOs or kind of thought leaders post, but they're not active themselves in posting their thoughts and kind of in their thought leadership. Uh, can you maybe provide some of the pointers? What kind of value do you get out of this? What's your intent when you're posting your thoughts and your advice on LinkedIn?
Um, it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, honestly, I originally started writing, articles and posts and stuff on LinkedIn and writing books and everything, and it was more focused on being a veteran. I was trying to help other veterans who were transitioning, and I wanted them to come into the cyber community. And I had multiple people asking me to kind of open the aperture and look wider,
Hmm.
at the community, because there was a lot more people, that could probably use the content that I was creating. And so when I started thinking about it, I realized, hey, they got a point. There isn't a day that doesn't go by that I don't feel blessed that I actually work in a field that I love. I actually love doing what I'm doing. I love being in cyber and working with different startups and just the people that I meet. And Rick McElroy and I, a fellow cyber executive and close friend of mine, him and I kind of came up with this idea about leaving a legacy, and the fact that where we are in our careers, that the next generation of CISOs are coming up behind us, and who's teaching them, who's providing content for them. And because many of us come from the military side, many of us are actually some of the first generation of CISOs, because the role really didn't exist before us. And so we're like, as we are getting older and getting, I like to say, getting more mature and moving into different roles. And I'm not saying I'm going to stay a CISO forever. I eventually will probably jump out and work on boards and be an individual contributor and work with
Hmm.
startups and do other stuff. But as I leave, I want to make sure, I've always thought I wanted to leave things behind, to help make it better. And as all the people that have been on my teams that I've had, even to this day, I keep track of many of the people that have worked for me. I still mentor them to this day, and follow where they are in their careers. And all of this kind of led me, to the idea of, writing about
Hmm.
things that I know well, or writing about things that interest me and sharing it. And what I find is I'm not the only one. I find that there's a lot of us, that there's a lot of CISOs that are very interested in sharing content, to make things better. You
Hmm.
know, and so for me, I just, it just became I don't know, it just kind of got away with itself. And I started doing quite a lot of it. I started writing quite a lot, and sharing with quite a lot of people. And um and for me, it's just a big thing, to be involved in the community and to give back where you can.
Certainly, certainly, that makes a lot of sense. But I think, well, you're giving advice, you're giving kind of your perspective. you're providing actionable insights that improve kind of career perspectives
Yep.
and of other professionals and executives in cybersecurity. But I think as a result of that, as a byproduct of that, uh, you'll also enhance your personal brand, and kind of from that perspective, and that's what I'm trying to tell the CISO
Yeah.
that we work with, that look, if you're known, you will get invited to speak on a panel or keynote a local event. You will uh, get an email from a news outlet asking for your advice. You will uh, be able to get this book deal. You will get your new promotion or new opportunity. But again, uh, this is kind of my perspective from kind of the sidelines. Can you maybe talk a little bit what
Well,
things came your way maybe you didn't even expect when you started this journey of helping the community and creating this kind of legacy type content for the CISOs who are coming up?
what you find out is, I mean, you look at it today, everything's connected. Everything today is connected, and you should expect that people are going to research you if you're applying for a job. You should expect, if you want to go ahead and speak at an event, or if you want to go ahead and attend an event, people are going to look you up. They're going to want to know who you are. They're going to want to know, what kind of, past history do you have and stuff. And so if you share, I mean, and for me, I just decided to use LinkedIn, and I've used other platforms as well. But what I found is, sharing that content and being active in the community, you build that brand, you build that level of awareness of what you know, and what you're active in and what you care about. And then honestly, it's easier for people to find you. It's easier for people to go and see, hey, this would be a good person to invite for this. Hey, this would be a good person, for our board. I've had multiple times where I'm looking at advising boards, and I know that they will research me and take a look at what I've written and what I've done previously. I expect that.
Mhm.
And it's like, you can go ahead and sit, within the community and do your job and kind of sit within your box and do your career if you want. But if you really want to be involved in the community and be active and be able to go ahead and give talks and to be at events and to be able to do things, if you want to, that's what I'm saying. If you want to be that kind of involvement, well, you do need to get involved. You do need to do the you do need to write and present and keynote and mentor and be out there, so that, and not just have it all spread, but maybe you use a couple of different platforms. You use, two or three platforms as your core areas where you concentrate, all of your writings or all of your presentations and slide decks and stuff. And then, you share it on LinkedIn and you share links out, but it's that type of thought leadership. It pays. Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't really make money. I'm not going out to buy a new car or anything like that. For me, it pays in that, people know who I am. They know what I'm talking about. They know, certain causes and things, dealing with veterans and dealing with, children with autism and stuff that really mean a lot to me. And they know that because, being a thought leader in the space, I write about it and I talk about it.
Certainly, no, it makes a lot of sense. If there was one thing that I learned, and again, I'm learning as well. I'm curious about a lot of different things. Is that to be successful on various platforms, but LinkedIn in particular, you need to be consistent. Meaning, you can't just post 10 different things and then disappear for a year, because that's not how things work. All of us kind of managing so many different things, and as cybersecurity professionals, I would imagine there are so many demands on everyone's time, whether it's preparing for the board meeting, communicating with your peers. It's always, sometimes you're putting out fires, but it's never a dull day. Rarely it is, right? So how do you kind of balance those kind of ongoing challenges, managing time, with the need to be active consistently on something like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
so that it's accretive. This following that you build, is there are no kind of drop offs? How do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Well, you obviously, you factor it into your schedule. You factor it into. I mean, I've got a weekly and a monthly schedule or stuff I'm doing that's work related and stuff that's family related. But I have a whole thing that I do for that's career focused. Where I am, doing, different posts on whether it's Twitter or whether it's, LinkedIn or whether it's, another platform, or I'm currently writing, working on a new book, and I set time aside. Usually it's, if I'm writing a new book, it's an hour an evening, and I don't go outside of that hour. I stay religiously to that so I don't burn myself out. I make sure that I do at least a couple of posts on LinkedIn per week, and I've got that in my calendar. And I will specifically look for different things. I read other friends, blogs, and I read, because part of being in cyber is you got to continually educate yourself. So, I mean, you're already reading, you're already keeping yourself up on the latest threats and the latest technologies and what's going on within the industry. So why not talk about it? What's your point? What do you find
Absolutely.
interesting? Or what do you think they're full of crap about? I mean, you share that, and so I make a note to go ahead and do that. And then periodically I'll actually write articles, or I may take an article that I wrote 4 years ago and take it back and realize, hey, a bunch of things have changed. The way I view has shifted. There's new content I now want to provide, and I'll update it and add new stuff to it and then repost it. And so so it's one of those things that you have to make a conscious effort. You get in what you put, I mean, you get out of it what you put into it.
Absolutely.
And if you really want to go ahead and be involved in the community, and you really want to go ahead and grow thought leadership and be known for specific things, the only way you're going to get there is you got to put some work in.
Absolutely. No, it makes a lot of sense. So for someone who is, I think the term I commonly hear is lurkers. So someone who's on the platform, they consume, they read, they like, but they don't really contribute. So for someone who is just getting around to the idea that it's very important for their own career to be not just active consuming content, but active sharing their thoughts actively. It's sometimes LinkedIn is just such a huge platform. There are so many different things you can be doing. What are the top three things? Someone who's just getting around to the idea they actually need to write something. What would you recommend they focus on?
What I would recommend is, first make a list of things that make a list of things that you like, things that things that you feel you could easily carry a conversation on or actually present on. You'd be surprised. You'll find a bunch of different topics, within the security community, within cyber or tech, that really well. Make that list first. So that way, you make that list of things, you make that list of things you would like to know more about, that you got to do research on, that you're going to read about, that you're going to attend and learn about. So you make those lists. The second thing I usually talk about is that it's usually a lot harder for people to write, but it's easier for them to talk. So I suggest, hey, if you want to go ahead and get started, look at some of the local events. You're a member of ISSA or ISACA or ISC Squared or one of these professional groups that's local in your area. They're always looking for people to speak about something. So you've got this list of things that really well, volunteer to speak about one of them. And in the process of putting together a slide deck, of researching on the latest stuff, going ahead and speaking, at a lunch, for one of your chapter's meetings, that kind of gets you into the flow. That's what it's like being a thought leader. You're doing it at small scale, but you're getting started. You know what you know, you research on it, you start putting together your content, your slide decks. Once you put together a slide deck and you present and you feel comfortable with that, now write a quick article on it and just post it on LinkedIn, or post it on Medium or someplace like that once you can share. That's all you got to do. You just start small, and it's you start with things that you're comfortable with, and then you slowly start adding to it.
Makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like weightlifting, right? You don't try to bench double your body weight right off the bat. You start slow and then slowly add a few pounds here and there, right? So it makes a lot of sense. That's extremely helpful, and I thank you so much for sharing. It's certainly. I really hope that in 2023, a lot more of our members, a lot more CISOs will take their own career well, not more seriously. I'm sure all of them take their career very seriously, but they they invest more of their time in building their personal brand that is portable. That
Yeah,
whether, to your point, whether you're an advisor to a startup, whether you write a book, where you look for a new opportunity or for promotion with an existing organization. To your point, having a personal brand and being known in the community and being known in the industry as a thought leader will go a long way. Now, switching gears, I know we don't have a lot of time. Gary, I saw that recently you published a guide to cybersecurity vendors, and I know it's a very touchy subject for a lot of CISOs, um, because a lot of them in private conversations, I hear, well, my phone is on silent from Monday morning until Friday afternoon. Oh, I do have an email that I never check. My only communication is internally through Slack, because my email is just, it's all spam and it's all vendor pitches. And it's kind of on and on and on. It's like very kind of visceral, strong reaction. And I think part of it is that there are so many startups in the last 2 3 years that raised so much money. A lot of them are point solutions, so they have a product that they're trying to sell
yeah,
directly to, and they go to the C-level executive, and they're very strongly incentivized by their investors, by their board, how much business we can bring this quarter, right? So anyone they see, they consider them as a potential client, not realizing that these people are very busy. They're focusing on other problems, on problems other than the one that your product solves. Yes, maybe there is room for your solution, but you need to play the long game. And I think this lack of patience uh, on the part of cybersecurity vendors is where they get in trouble. And I think it was very insightful. Um, and I understand, I saw that you updated this, so it's something you've been kind of passionate about and contributing for a period of time. And just kind of to give like the highlights, what are some of the top pet peeves, I guess, of yours, and and I'm sure some of the cybersecurity vendors on the flip side are playing the long game without naming names on either side. What are some of your pet peeves, and what some of the actions or some of the cybersecurity startups that impressed you in the positive way?
I think some of the biggest things is that you need to know your audience. You know the the if you don't really understand what a CISO does in their daily work, how they fit within an organization, what they're doing within an organization, it's extremely hard for you to sell to them. Because you don't understand that the way their teams are set up and the way they do budget and how they're constantly dealing with risks and threats. There's a lot of stuff that that they deal with, and where you fit into their day is very, very minuscule. And harassing them with email and phone calls is not it. I mean, you really need to understand the audience. The other thing you need to understand, and I think a big thing that I touch on is, what the hell problem are you trying to solve? CISOs, the way they build security programs, using frameworks and using specific methodologies on how a stack is built and how, controls are, basically installed, assessed, monitored, removed, and how they're dealing with threats. There's a methodical way in which they do it, and the approach that they do it, and the way that they look at technology. And they don't buy point solutions. They don't buy technologies just because. They buy them because there's a specific problem they're trying to solve, or they're looking from a platform perspective. I can buy this technology and it solves these 3 or 4 issues for me. There's always a problem issue that they're dealing with. And obviously with limited resources and small teams, all of these things kind of compound when a system is looking at a technology, or they're looking at a service to be able to put within their security stack. It isn't just, I just want to go out and buy something. They're trying to go ahead and fix an issue, solve a problem, or actually be preventive. And hey, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to consolidate and get rid of 3 and install one new technology that provides me these services. And hopefully I'm getting it at a better price. But but that's what I'm saying, is that it's those things that, and that's the reason why I wrote this article, as a reminder. There are specific things that a that a CISO looks for, how they operate, what he or she is doing in running their security program as a business risk executive for their companies. And you need to understand that before you try to go ahead and just, hey, buy my stuff.
And so, and again, so on the positive side, what would be some of the examples? And thank you for sharing this. This is excellent. Again, without naming names, from most recent experience, last 6 months, maybe a year, what some of the cybersecurity vendors did that impressed you and showed that they really know how to play the long game?
I think some of the things that I've seen is where they have they'll have like a long term kind of a thing where they'll get a bunch of us together. You're kind of doing training. You're kind of seeing, how the application or how the service is used and
Mhm.
and what issues it's solving. And then, it isn't, as soon as you finish, they're calling you to sell. Instead, it's more of, over time, they show you other things, and other, so you can see more and more different facets of what's going on. They've, in that process, they've taken time to get to know you. They know what your budget cycle's like. They know what your team's working on. They know that, hey, you just don't have time for them right now. And it's at least 6 months out before you can even look at, dealing with them. And if, you and them go ahead and talk and you say, hey, call me back in May of 2023, they're not calling you in November of 2022. They're actually going to wait and call you in May of 2023 because they're holding you to your word. You're busy. You got the end of fiscal. You got multiple projects you're trying to, and you just don't have time.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, it's really kind of playing the long game pays off. Well, Gary, thank you so much for taking time for this. Again, we started with LinkedIn. I assume for our members, is this kind of the best platform to find you, to connect with you?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, usually I'm on LinkedIn or I'm on Twitter.
I see. Excellent. Well, this was very interesting and very insightful. Thank you. I hope we'll be able to do it again sometime, and hopefully we'll get to meet face to face at some point, either at RSA or Black Hat. It's RSA.
Oh, definitely.
Sounds
Looking
good.
forward to it.